My guest builds decision software for people whose wrong answer kills someone. Think defense units, emergency managers, utilities. Nissim Titan, founder and CEO of Forecast, 8 million in revenue, going for 30. But I don't want to ask him how his technology works. I want to ask him how he decides. Nissim, you told me people ask you to make 20 decisions a day, and only one of them actually matters to your number. How do you know which one?
First of all, thank you for having me today. And yeah, what you're asking is very interesting. I remember we talked, I told you decision makers have to make 20 decisions a day, but the main challenge is that most of them aren't critical to achieve their own goals, their business goals, their operational goals. And I think what I'm trying to do is understand what are my main goals, my lighthouse, for example, my company's lighthouse, what I'm trying to achieve. And then if I try to focus and say, okay, this is the 20 decisions I did today, which one of them actually affected where I want to be? Which one affected my roadmap? Which one helped me impact achieving my goals? And sometimes it's none. And once put all the noise aside and say, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what I'm trying to achieve, like everything in life. Then you start to understand what are the critical decisions that you need to make every day and what's just noise that you need to put aside.
Okay. But is there a filter that you actually write down somewhere? And also, who on your team is allowed to decide something without you?
So first of all, we're not talking technology, but I use my systems.
Yep.
But there's a lot of people that are have different capabilities and knowledge in making decision making. But from my point of view, it's the decision making framework you implement in your organization. So first of all, map your goals, where you want to be. It can be a business goal, an operational goal, what you're trying to achieve. Once you say, these are my goals, this is my lighthouse, this is where I want to be, then start creating your decision-making framework. Talk about what are critical decisions that impact my lighthouse. Those are the decisions I want to make. Those are the decisions I want to be focused on. Those are the decisions I want my people to give me options to show me what's the trade-offs, what's the impact, how it will affect us. It can be regarding budget, it can be regarding workforce, it can be regarding a lot of different issues. And other areas don't impact directly my goals or my operational goals. Those are, I call it noises, but those are decisions that you need to take to give your people. So some of them, for example, are different day-to-day operational decisions. I let my COO make those decisions. Some of them are basic technical decisions. My CTO makes those decisions. But for example, if it's changing the architecture, that will impact my roadmap or what kind of technology I will deliver. That can impact my reputation, my brand, my achieving my goals, then I need to be involved with my CTO in that decision making process. This is how usually I break down the decision making framework in my organization.
You sell into a world where a bad decision isn't a missed quarter, it's a blackout or a casualty. What does that environment teach you that normal business software companies would never learn?
I think, first of all, to be more humble and
Okay.
not think that technology solves everything. Understand that, when people talk about, for example, decision intelligence, they talk about decision making, decision support, decision augmentation, decision automation. In such high stakes decisions, there's no decision automation. We need to enable and utilize technology to collect fast the data, to give us options, to play with it, for example, with simulations, what if scenarios, what's the impact, but understand that always there will be a man in the loop that will need to make that decision. So you need to find the right balance between supporting the decision maker, but keeping that man in the loop to make that right decision. Because, like you said, speaking about evacuating people, speaking about utilities and energy challenges, speaking about saving lives, it's a big decision making process here.
You said it teaches you to be humble. Could you expand on that?
A lot of times, I think, you know, uh, first of all, I think we as decision makers think we know it all. We have experience. I've seen that. I know that. Don't tell me about that. And sometimes we're not seeing everything. We're looking in a silo because I'm solving one problem in my organization, but I don't have the capability to see the integrated picture. Maybe it's impacting or affecting different areas in my organization. I'll give you an example. I'm investing a lot of money in cyber, but maybe I'm not investing in my infrastructure or my people or recruiting the right people for my development team. So those are challenges. And a lot of times now, I think, especially since people learn to work a lot with AI, they think, okay, the AI told me it. In the past, when I would run simulations and decision making processes, people would ask me, why does the system recommend that? How do you bring that conclusion? And today, doesn't matter what kind of check you're using, the answer came from AI, although it can be hallucinating. So this is where I say, be more humble, ask more questions, demand to see from where the data came. How did you come to that conclusion? Give me options as a decision maker. Okay, this is what you need to do. Okay, but what if I don't do it? What's the impact? Do I have other options? Can I use less budget? Can I have some option in the middle, a balanced option? What will be the effect on my organization? So you need to understand all those questions and not think that you know everything. And that's also what something I tell my people. You need to help me make the right decision. Give me more information, more options, more drilled down into impact and trade-offs and things like that.
What would you say is the biggest difference between how a general and a CEO handle uncertainty? Who's actually better at it?
Who's actually better? I don't know. Don't want to make it get in trouble, but I think it's a different concept. I think a person that makes great decisions is actually a basketball coach, for example. He needs to make a lot of critical decisions in a very short time. A lot of times, a general, he has only one critical decisions every 24 hours during war, but that's a critical decision. And he has a big organization, a lot of people working for him, and I think that his decision making process is a lot harder because a lot of times, because of lack of technology, because of lack of experience, because of his people, because of lack of a good decision making framework, he gets so much noise in his decision making process without a clear, simple picture with three options that he can ask, okay, what's the impact of this? What's the impact of that? Ask additional questions. I think the main issue is that he knows the right questions to ask, but usually he makes that decision in a silo. He has different teams. He's looking just on one mission without understanding the impact on other missions. A CEO, a lot of times, and that depends on the company and his experience, also makes decisions in silo. Also, a lot of times doesn't have all the information. Also, a lot of times doesn't have almost all the options. But a lot of CEOs I meet, they have enough experience to try and create that integrated picture in their head. And it's a little bit more simple, but still, I think this is why today, with the development of AI, we can bring better platforms, better decision intelligence platform to help those people achieve better results.
Okay. If you pointed your own system at your company forecast, at your, more specifically at your 8 to 30 million problem, not at a flood, what would it tell you're getting wrong?
Oh, a lot of things. But I think the main thing is the impact. I can give you a few examples. Okay.
Sure.
For example, as a software company, I want my decision intelligence platform to be one of the leading platforms in the world, right? So I create business partnerships, I have customers, and I have a goal I want to achieve, a number that I want to be, a number of revenue, a number of in money. To do that, for example, I'm working with my business partners. And what I'm giving my business partners and customers is value for their money. I'm helping them solve sophisticated problems, make good decisions. So that's my reputation. So that means that my delivery team, my customer success need to be experts and trusted advisors. My technology needs to be state of the art, providing real recommendations with more than 95% accuracy, if not 100% accuracy. And suddenly, in one of the discussions in the company, they tell me we need to invest more money in cyber defense. Okay, how much money? It was a big amount. It was hundred thousands of dollars. And I was looking at it as in that amount of money, I can bring more developers to my team, achieve more goals in my roadmap. But suddenly, when I mapped this in my system and looked at my goal as being the best company for decision intelligence, how do I achieve it? It's like a tree of decisions. It's through my partners and customers, through innovative technology, through my reputation. Suddenly I understand if I don't invest that amount of money in cyber, I'm I'm more vulnerable for cyber attacks. If I get a cyber attack, my reputation can get hit. My partners will tell me, we don't want to work with you. And suddenly everything falls down. So this is how I can make the right decision. And I can tell myself, okay, I will not recruit two more developers. So it will take me half a year more to develop, but I keep my reputation. So those are the decisions and the understanding of different impacts where the system helps you achieve your goals and understand the critical decisions you need to make, but also give you options so you can understand what's the challenge in each and every one of your decisions. And sometimes you will make a decision that there's a risk. Always we run risk assessments. Everything is based on risks, right? But you say, okay, I know the risk that I have and I can live with it.
Are you saying that at times the system will flag something about, for example, your company, that you intentionally say, I'm going to ignore for the moment?
Yeah, it's not saying I'm ignoring, but for every option, there's always a risk, an
Yeah.
impact, a trade-off.
Yep.
And,
Opportunity
and, and
cost.
that's
Yep.
what you need to understand because if you want to be 100%, you will never have enough resources, enough money, right? Because, but just understanding the risk, and that's, I can tell you from meeting a lot of decision makers, that's their main challenge. Sometimes they don't know the risk, they don't know the impact. The people that work with them don't know what to show them, what, to give them the integrated picture of their organization, actually.
Okay. In our previous conversation, you named three bottlenecks to 30 million: sales execution, roadmap speed, and delivery. You said sales is the biggest, but is it actually a sales problem or a decision problem wearing a sales costume?
Now, yeah, when we talked about it, I mapped my company as sales, delivery, and development. And yeah, when there's a sales problem, then you need to check yourselves, I think, in two ways. First, or three actually. First of all, it's do I have the right people? And if they are the right people, did I train them as do they know the solution? Do they know the value? And the second one is what's the value of my solution? Do I bring value to end customers? And the third is what's my network? How do I work? Because, for example, a company like Forecast, we work with high level decision makers, but we need to talk to the general and bring in value. We need to talk to the mid, let's call it level decision makers, colonels, for example. We need to support the planners. We need to support the analysts. So, do we know all that? Is my sales guy becomes not a sales guy, he becomes an expert. He needs to understand decision making. He needs to understand those high level decision makers that he's meeting. He needs to be a consultant. He needs to be more like customer success. And this is something I learned through my system when my sales guys didn't succeed because I brought great sales guys that are experts in sales, but selling a decision intelligence platform is a different story. And you can do that in different market verticals according to the challenges that they have.
That's an interesting problem, identifying which decision your sales team is making badly and then asking them to make changes. How do you approach that conversation with them?
It's not an easy conversation. But look, first of all, we approach the conversation from the objectives point of view. We have a goal, we didn't achieve our goal. Okay, that's a challenge. Why? Now let's drill down and understand. And we map everything as a model, because this is how we think, guys that develop AI systems. So we approach that. Let's talk about it. Why are we not succeeding? Is there not a need in the market? Or there's a need in the market? We're okay. Do we bring value? Yeah, actually, we bring good value. Do we have references? Yeah. We have partners? Yeah. We have good technology? Yeah. So why aren't we selling? And suddenly we start mapping and understanding some of the sales guys don't have enough skills. Some of them don't really understand the end customer. They need the consultants, the customer success, the product guys to go with them to meetings. Some of them don't understand the mapping of the organization, like I just talked to you about. Yeah, you need to talk to the general, but you need the guys, the CIO, but you also need the planner, you also need the analyst. Those are what's mapping the organization, mapping the main challenges of that organization. If I'm talking about achieving goals in Lighthouse, to every customer I'm going, I need to understand what are his goals, his challenges. Where does he make decisions? What's his pain and what's the gains that he gets from such a system as forecast to bring him value? And then suddenly I understood that I need to change the way I onboard my sales guys, the way I train them, the way I make research and map my end customers. And sometimes we need a different description, user or persona that will be a forecast sales guys. And we also looked where do we succeed? We succeed where the guy that is selling is actually more of an expert, more of a product guy, expert understanding the end customer because this is a complex solution. So that's a little bit of the mapping process I did in my organization, and I do it from also my point of view of this is my business, helping people make decisions.
It's really interesting because you've built forecast off of project revenue, no venture money. So essentially every dollar you spent is one you've earned. Does that make your allocation decisions better or just slower?
It depends. Today I can tell it's better because I'm always looking on how can I work correctly. There's a lot of companies that they get a lot of money, but they don't know how to work once they get those clients. So I know how to manage my business. We work very lean, very productive, very creating value. But yes, in the past, it brought me to work slower because what did I do? I told them, maybe I won't recruit that guy. I don't have enough money. Although if I would have get some money from investors, I could have recruited two more development teams and worked faster. So in that case, that was not a good point for me. That created a bottleneck for me. It took me time to understand, yeah, I'm only relying on my own money, but I need to invest more to move faster and not just look all the time on money. From the other point of view, I think there are also a lot of people that recruit a lot of money. Sometimes they can just run and spend it and not look in the right direction also. There's pros and cons in every situation.
Because as I understand it, your defense deals take about 2 to 3 years, government probably 18 to 24 months. And so it's an interesting problem because your buyer's problem is that they decide to slowly, and it takes them 2 years to decide to buy the thing that fixes that. What have you learned about how they actually buy?
I can tell you they're trying to change today. You hear a lot DoD in the US, for example, trying to create faster purchasing processes. But you're totally right. Until they make that decision, until they understand, and today with how fast technology is evolving, once they go for the contract, there's a new version, a new technology, new things that they can do. And I think today, from my experience, and I always did it, was coming with a smaller project, like a proof of value, a POV, I like to call it, not a POC, because we're not checking technology. I take the system, see that it brings value. Go for a small project with not a lot of money, see you get value, and then it's easier for them to make the decision. I can understand why the decision cycle takes them a lot of times. Some of it I don't accept, that's more bureaucracy, but some of it I understand because comes this guy from forecasts and tells you, I have this magic box that can help you make better decisions. Okay, sounds great. Now, how does it work? So, let me help you with doing a small proof of it. Run 1 year, run on it data, see it brings you value, and that helps you bring that cycle to be a little bit faster. Because if not, the decision making process is so long, and this is why you need also to connect all the dots. You need the decision maker, you need the planner, you need the tech guy, you need everyone to see that everyone's getting value, and not someone that's making the decision is not someone that gets value from the system.
Absolutely. The proof of value concept that you're talking about there. But I'm curious, what moves a deal from month 6 to month 18? Because is the real decision maker the CIO or the operator? And more importantly, how do you keep your team motivated through a 2-year cycle?
So I think, first of all, it's hard. It's very hard to motivate the team. It's harder to talk to your board of directors, right? You're telling about a big
Yeah.
project, and someone thinks you're telling a story. Okay, we heard it a year ago, 2 years ago. What's happening with it? And I think that you can do it shorter once you map everything. It's the work that you do before it. So first of all, meeting the right people, mapping the right people, talking to the decision maker, but also talking to the tech guys and talking to the purchasing guys to close that cycle faster. Because sometimes you're just talking to the tech guys, they love the technology, you're running, you're doing a proof of concept, you work for 1 year, and suddenly, oh, we don't have a decision maker that needs it. We haven't spoken to the CEO of the company. We haven't spoken to the COO of the company. So connecting the money, connecting the actual end customer, connecting the tech guys is very critical in this process, because if not moving, and I've done deals in 6 months, that was very surprising for me also, but if not moving from 6 months to 18 months to 24 months, it's just bureaucracy. It's just bureaucracy. And you touched a very critical point, keeping your team and yourself motivated. Is this really going to happen? And it's government. Sometimes suddenly someone takes their budget. Oh, well, we don't have the money anymore. So those are areas that unfortunately from real life experience, I've learned a lot.
You said that SAP is your primary growth lever. Every small company needs a big one. But selling through a partner means giving up the customer conversation to an extent. So I'm curious, how do you manage a growth engine you don't really own?
It's not actually how it works with us, because starting as a small company with a big partner is, I think it's a good approach. I think it's a good idea. It helps you achieve your pipeline. They have the connections, they have the contract vehicles, but there's a few challenges. For example, if it's just a simple partnership and I'm giving you some kind of, you have 1,000 solutions and this is 1,001, it will stay in your catalog and they will never sell you. Happened to me in the past with other partners. But in this case, I'm bringing something that is missing in their puzzle. So they have some kind of hole, some kind of solution that is actually complementing their solution. So it's a mutual value here. This is why they want to sell me. And with them together today, because these are complex solutions, we're selling together. We have mutual meetings, we work together, we meet the customers together. They bring us to every meeting. So it's not just your partner running and he's not working for you. You're doing your own sales efforts, but there's the connection together, and this is why I think it's succeeding.
So what percentage of pipeline actually comes through SAP versus direct?
Today, I think it's 60-40, something like that.
Okay. I want to put something to you that perhaps complicates your position, and rather you get to answer it than have people wonder. Nature Human Behavior published a meta-analysis in 2024 about 106 experiments on whether humans and AI together beat either alone. Overall, combinations perform significantly worse than the best of the two. And on decision tasks specifically, which is exactly your task class, it was a performance loss. But there's a moderator. When the human was better than the AI, the combination helped a lot. When the AI was better, keeping the human in the loop destroyed value. You've said there will always be a man in the loop. So where's your threshold?
So I said there will always be a man in the loop in decisions like forecast does. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of times decision intelligence platforms that they help a factory, they help purchasing. For example, we don't have enough milk in the supermarket. That's decision automation. Then you don't need a man in the loop. The machine is better. But AI is great to collect the data, to bring it together. Then you need to use different AI techniques. It's not just Gen AI. Then you start using optimization and simulations and heuristic models and different non-generative AI, different approaches, knowledge graphs. So use all those technologies to bring you in a fast manner the options that I spoke about, the trade-offs, the models that are connected in the background, the knowledge base that you have is very critical, and that's an approach that Forecast used. Once you brought all that data to the decision maker or group of decision makers, then the man in the loop that asks the next questions gets an answer. Understand the impact. It's the most relevant process that can happen, and I think makes the great decisions. Because imagine yourself that the AI would have told a state in the US from where to evacuate 10,000 people. Where's the man in the loop? Where's someone understanding the different impacts? What's the reasoning here? What's the hallucinations that can happen from the AI? So those are areas that the machine cannot do it on its own. For tactical, simple decisions, yeah, of course, use it automatically. For high-level decision making, still there's a man in the loop in these processes.
If I could put what you're saying slightly differently, would I be right in saying that exercising judgment is critical in the scenarios that forecast is often used?
Yeah, you're totally correct. Because if an AI telling the US Army, yeah, go for an operation in some country, yeah, automatically.
Okay, so how do we ensure that people are developing the skill of judgment, as I can only see that becoming more of a necessity as we get exposed to increasing amounts of data?
So I think from my point of view is first of all, every organization needs to implement a decision-making framework, right? And
Yep.
decision-making frameworks haven't changed and they'll stay the same. Everyone can choose his decision-making framework. They need to utilize technology. They need to use technology. It helps you collect data. It helps you do things faster. But we need also to train them and also enable them to give them those decision intelligence platforms that actually give them options, are explainable and transparent, say from how they got that conclusion, from where do they take the data, and give them the ability to ask the questions so they can understand the impact. I don't know if we talked about it, but the main challenge I'm seeing a lot of times is I see it as a picture of we have a goal, we have a lot of data, but the decision making gap in the middle is we don't know what questions to ask. And technology can help us understand the known unknowns. We have a lot of information in the data, but because we don't ask the right questions, we don't understand what we should do. And that's where technology can help them. And I think it's training with integrating and implementing decision intelligence technology.
And you've said that generative AI is about 60% accurate, and your models have to be, 95 to 100% accurate. Two things. Where does the 60% come from, and what does building for 95 require that most AI companies simply don't do yet?
Look, generative AI is great, right? But it's not for decision making, not in the world that I'm working on. A lot of hallucinations, a lot of inventions, it's how you ask the question, it's how you manage your prompts. And to be very accurate is why do people need forecast? Go to ChatGPT, ask a question. Is my military ready for an operation? Where do I evacuate people? You can ask it. But what we've implemented is all the models that we created, all the behavior models, the doctrinal models that we created, the knowledge base that we built for the last, I've done it for more than 20 years, but since Forecast was founded in 2018, all this expertise in business logic is implemented inside. So once you work with our LLM, it's just a trigger that runs different agents. There's an agent expert in every world, runs those models, and I need to be 100% accurate. I'm trying to be 95 and up because you're making high stakes decisions that you cannot make any mistakes, right? So if I asked ChatGPT about where can I buy sunglasses and he was wrong about the pricing, that's not so critical. But here, the right skill in my system, the right agent, the right prompt, the right models, the right knowledge base is very critical. And I think all those connections, all that concept, all those knowledge graph connections in my platform are critical for decision making. And I think today, when people start to understand it, they understand it also needs to be a very tailor-made to industry. If you're working in the energy industry, in the transportation, in healthcare, all those critical decisions. And that's where I think we bring our major value.
So really the value in forecast is the scenarios and the decisions that have been made over so many years that you can apply to a specific industry.
I think the value is, first of all, in the models and the concept that we help, the decision-making
Yep.
framework. It's in the mapping the critical decisions, helping you understand what questions you need to ask, and giving you options, showing you the impact, the risk, and the trade-off of each and every one of your decisions. And that's something that you won't get a lot of times from Gen AI. And actually, the numbers I'm giving you about Gen AI and accuracy and if it helps decision making is something that was also published in a Gartner research that was made recently.
So would I also be right in saying that through using a platform like Forecast, you're actually improving your decision-making abilities?
Yes, you're improving your decision making.
Sorry, decision-making frameworks is what I
Exactly. Your decision making
Okay.
framework, your decision making process,
Yep.
and it gives you the tools to make better judgment. You pointed that out, the judgment. So yeah, it gives you those tools, those supporting tools to help you.
Okay. I don't think anyone's ever asked you this on a podcast. I wonder if you could tell me about a time your platform gave a customer a recommendation that was wrong. What happened? How did you find out? And what did it change?
So luckily for me, we haven't had such a thing, but this is the way we work. For example, before giving the system to a customer or developing a new vertical, we do a lot of internal testing, seeing the results. This is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, let's say. And then when we provide it to the customer, we talk about the amount of accuracy. And also in the first phase, we provide it as a solution. We build those field development engineers. We bring our team to work with them and see that what the system is creating, those recommendations are actually validated and good. It's running time, so we haven't seen any major problems or gaps. The only thing that is very critical is the accuracy of your source data. And that's something we also talk about because sometimes you can have the best AI, the best decision intelligence platform, but your data is not good enough, so we're making a decisions and judgment based on the wrong basic data. For example, you're not, you say you have 100 employees, but actually you have 50. So those are areas we map and check with the IT team, with the source systems. Give me the accuracy of the source data. Let's see it. Let's check. So we can validate it, but sometimes that's another challenge when implementing in big organizations.
I suppose that would depend upon the sources that you provide for forecast, but in most cases, I would assume they would offer things like internal documents or customer call transcripts,
Mhm.
etc., which should be pretty accurate. what one would hope.
Yeah, usually yes, but sometimes it's like you also take the amount of spare parts they have in a warehouse. And if someone didn't update their last
Okay, yeah.
purchasing process, so that's what I mean about not accurate data, for example.
Okay. Could you share the pipeline story? US gas utility station near a river, floods every year. Your platform said build a new pipeline, 56 million, and the CEO said no. Take me through what you did next, because I think the reframe is more instructive than any technology in your product.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good story. So what happened there was we had a challenge with the utility company and in an area providing gas to their end customers where they get a lot of floods every year from the river and they cannot support their customers with their SLA. So we ran three options, right? And one option said, okay, how can I provide with a third party? How can I provide a gas with trucks? And the best option was invest in a new pipeline that will go from another area and will actually create work around the floods. But that's $56 million. And the CEO said, no way, like you said, no way, no way. Let's call the CFO. No way, no one's investing that amount of money. So we asked the system, show us why should we invest? And the system brought data about fines that they're getting. According to US regulation, for example, if I'm not providing according to the SLA contract that I have, it's $1 million fine per day. And I just showed him that the year before, that was 14 days, he didn't provide according to SLA, and he was fined $14 million. So now let's talk about SLA, your reputation, customer satisfaction, getting fines because that's painful, that's money. And once you put it that way and say, okay, every year I have the risk of paying between 10 to $20 million of fine. So investing one time $56 million instead of that. So that becomes a discussion for a real decision making process. These are my options. This is the impact. This is the risk. This is how much money it will cost me. And this can make a better decision. Also, we can decide not to choose that option, but he knows the risk of every year I need to pay that fine. So maybe he's a CEO that is finishing next year and he says, okay, that's not my problem. That can also happen.
What would you say would be the general lesson about how executives evaluate a big number?
How executives evaluate a big number? It depends. Sometimes, if it's too big of a number, they don't understand it. It's very hard for them to understand it. It's just, no, I'm not doing it, or I don't understand it, leave me alone. Yeah, take that budget and leave me alone. Because with small numbers, there's something in our psychology that we know how to work, because it's something we understand. Okay, it's $3 million. I don't know, my house costs $3 million, but if it's $500 million, that's too much of a big number. And I think a lot of times when we see money, we don't understand, okay, sometimes we need to invest because we need to look at the future. We need to look at how can we achieve those goals, like the example I gave you about cyber in my company, and also understand those impacts and break down also the numbers that I've just seen, because there's additional options. It's not 0 or 1. It's not black and white. There's also gray areas where, okay, and what if I have only 25% less of budget? What do you recommend me to do? And systems will help you and tell, okay, so do just A, B, and D. That will bring you to lower your risk by 70%. Is that good enough for you? So those are areas where we need to help those decision makers. And today, once they don't have that framework, the only problem that happens is, okay, this is your problem, this is what you need, and this is how much it costs. Whoa, wait, it's a big number. Now we need to help them break it down, ask additional questions, give more options, and that's the decision-making framework and process that needs to happen in every organization.
So I suppose a big part of this whole process of evaluating big numbers and communicating that with the leadership is really about understanding how people digest information and making it more digestible would be not the word that I'm going for, but certainly a lot easier to comprehend.
Could you ask again? It was the sound
Sure.
was.
I guess my takeaway from what you're saying is that one of the lessons around how we communicate with leadership in a company would really be, especially when it comes to big numbers, would really be this idea of understanding human psychology and being able to break down information into more comprehensible chunks that are easily digested.
First of all, totally agree with you. And also, that's my recommendations to people that don't have systems and, of course, don't have forecast. Uh, Break down those options before you come to that discussion. So create that process in your organization that okay, we have the final number, but we create a few options. We created 3 options. We created breakdown options, and then that becomes a discussion. And suddenly you help the decision maker understand risk, impact, trade-offs. I think that's the key point you need to address.
I'm sure a lot of the listeners would recognize the pattern wherein a CEO buys an AI tool, the board approves it in 11 minutes because it promises digital transformation, and 3 months later, 12 people have used it twice. What would you do in the first 90 days that decides whether you're the tool people use or the tool people bought?
In the first 90 days, first of all, I would see that I'm bringing value to different stakeholders in the organization. This is something actually I map in advance. And my promise a lot of times when I come to big organizations that we have a 12-week onboarding process. And in 12 weeks, I bring you value to each and every one of those stakeholders. Because if not, they won't use that technology. They just bought it. And they won't renew the license the next year because they're not using it, because they don't know how to use it. They don't know the value. And it can be also with other simple AI tools that today people are bringing to their organizations, but they're not actually implementing them in the right way. They don't have implementing processes, training processes internally in their organizations. How to utilize those tools? How does this tool help me? What value does it bring? Does it bring me speed? Does it bring me ROI? How does it help me actually? And that's what I'm trying to achieve in every organization. And I also tell my customers, if you don't get value from our tool, don't use it.
You named delivery as a bottleneck. So I'm curious, what's broken in it? What's your leading indicator a deployment will fail? And have you ever fired a customer?
I think where I failed in the past was where I looked at delivery as you bought my system, I trained you on the system, I implemented it a little bit, and yeah, you're free to go. That's where I didn't succeed. When you buy my platform, you buy my expertise, you buy my people, you buy a solution that comes with experts. And we need to come, take your hand, and go with you step by step to understand your organization, to see the value that you get from it. And this is why we provide a 12-week onboarding process. We provide those field development engineers every quarter for workshops to understand your new challenges. What are your problems? And I think once I become your trusted advisor, I know your organizations, I know your challenges. I'm actually bringing value. And remember, you evolve as it goes along. Like the system learns, the models learn. You become an expert. Now you're starting to ask more difficult questions, different questions. You're trying to maximize the potential of what you can get with this tool. So if I see you as a partner and not as a customer, and you see me as a trusted advisor, then I will succeed in the delivery process. And this is what I'm trying to train my people all the time. We're your trusted advisors. And I succeeded only in places where I actually help people with my knowledge in decision making, changing the decision making framework, changing things that are not just the technology part of it.
I love that. Could you talk to us about the 4-year project with the University of Maryland and Bar Ilan on how crowds behave in the first minutes of a disaster? the four phases where people freeze, then follow whoever moves with confidence, like the guy walking the wrong way in an airport. You mentioned this once publicly and moved straight past it, but I think it's an interesting thing you've built. Walk us through it if you would.
First of all, I need to tell you that it's amazing that you remember everything we talked about, and that so thank you for that. And yeah, in the past when I started working in emergency management, vertical in area, one of the challenges you have if there's a fire, if there's an earthquake, is actually evacuation, right? How can you save lives? And I started a research with the University of Bar Ilan, with the Professor Gal Kaminka and Professor Sarit Kraus, and the University of Maryland also then partnered with us, and we did a major research of how crowd behaves during a crisis event. And we found out that there's four stages of behavior. Why is that important? Because we spoke about it between us. It's like when I get out of the plane, if there's the first guy going with a lot of confidence, although he's not going to the right direction, everyone's going after him. And usually what happens to us is once a crisis happened, immediately I want to survive and what happens to me, and suddenly my thoughts are in a tunnel. So I'm trying to go out through the way I came, and doesn't matter if there's an exit from another side. The second part of it is, so the first phase is I'm freezing. I have this tunnel in my head. I think, what should I do? The second phase is if there's someone that is confident, I go after him. That's the crowd behavior. And the third phase is actually if there's someone that looks like he is in charge of things. It can be someone in the airport, for example, from the TSA, or someone that is more responsible that is arranging. And the fourth stage is actually when the first responders arrive and tell you what to do. And that research was very interesting because we saw fires in trains, we saw earthquakes, and how people freeze. And to understand that, it's very critical because once you want to plan with a tool in advance, before there's events, you need to think about those areas of how can I evacuate, how can I evacuate stadiums, how can I evacuate buildings, what's the time of day, how can I evacuate people when there's a big fire. So all those things you need to think about them, because I actually saw real life events. For example, there was a big wildfire that came close to a town, and they just called all the parents, come and take your kids from school. So suddenly there was a big traffic jam, and that created a big event. So in advance, if we would have simulated this event, if we would have simulated how people will actually react, how can they behave, we can understand in advance to create better evacuation plans in such critical times when no one's sure what to do.
I'm curious, do these same four phases show up inside a company in crisis?
No, I talked about crowd evacuation, four phases.
Yeah, but I was wondering if those same phases actually show up when a company's in crisis as well.
I don't know if the exact phases, but I can tell you that a lot of what I've learned from the defense experience, the emergency management, is we actually have three phases that we manage all the time. There's the planning phase, and I think in emergency management or defense, that's 85% of being ready, because the damage will be less when things happen. There's the crisis phase. So if the planning was good and you have those options and you have the tools to make decisions, you come to the crisis phase, you only take what you did in the planning and change the planning. The planning goes through all the phases all the time. And you manage the crisis better. Because if not, yeah, there's those phases. Crisis happened, suddenly everything I knew is, whoa, I'm in shock, I'm freezing. Now the second option is, what should I do? I'm calling one of my managers, maybe he has some kind of solution, because let's say this morning there's a strike of all my truck drivers and no one's taking food to the supermarkets. So first of all, I freeze. Second phase, I'm calling one of maybe he knows better than me. Third phase, we try to understand what's happening. And the fourth phase is actually, okay, let's calm down. Let's open the planning phase. Let's see if what's the regulation, what should we do? And the third phase after the crisis is, sustaining all the time the operations. There's always a planning phase ongoing in an organization, in emergency management, but that's the day-to-day business. But yeah, people react the same. They react the same. First of all, they freeze. Then, but depends how hard did that hit them.
In phase two, people follow confidence rather than correctness. What does that mean for a CEO in a bad quarter? How do you become the person people follow? And how do you avoid being the guy walking the wrong way?
Uh, Being the guy walking the right way is having a decision-making framework, having
Okay.
data, understanding options, researching what you get from that data, understand everything, planning everything, mapping the decision. I call it decision intelligence mapping, but it's actually mapping the decision making framework, understanding the centers of gravity in your organizations, what's critical, what's vulnerable, and on what you're relying. And I think those are major areas that once you understand them, you can make the right decisions. You will have a bad quarter, you will have disruptions, you will have challenges, but once you understand where is my center of gravity, my center of gravity is my reputation, my center of gravity is my roadmap, my center of gravity is my delivery. Where do I have challenges? Where do I have critical requirements, critical vulnerabilities, so critical capabilities? All those areas, that's a whole mapping methodology that actually is implemented in our tool also. But I think if you understand that, then you become that source of people come to you and you know how to make the right decision. But once you also create that planning culture in your organization, then you will have all those tools once there's a challenge and you need that business continuity to keep on. You will have those processes, those regulations, those what should I do? Not ask, just open the plan and see what you planned in advance you need to do in such situations.
In most organizations, I often find that there are centers of influence as well that can be critical if tapped into correctly during a time of crisis. Is that something that a platform like Forecast would be able to identify, given the right
Yeah.
inputs?
Yeah, giving the right input, that's the decision intelligence mapping, mapping all
Yep.
those heat maps in the organization, but also understanding some of them maybe are not so correct. Some of them are based just on one person that everybody knows. Yeah, he's been here for 20 years. He knows all the answers to the questions, but sometimes he doesn't have the right data. And a lot of
Yep.
times, remember, organizations look at their internal data. They don't look at external data. And this is something a platform can help you because sometimes weather affects you, sometimes geopolitical issues affect you, and so on.
Let's say your buyer is a company past product market fit where operational complexity is outgrowing their ability to decide. What are the two or three symptoms a CEO would notice first before they have the language for it?
What are the symptoms? First of all, that you don't understand the full picture of your organization. Second of all, that you're making most of your decisions based on your gut feeling because you don't have data or options or understanding. And the third one will be that the guy that managed those operations, when you call him to your office and ask him questions, how much does he know? And those are, I think, good enough symptoms to understand, hey guys, let's stop. Let's do some kind of change management. Let's do some kind of a better process, better planning, better decision making framework before technology, although. Just let's think about it.
You've said that founders shouldn't delegate market entry. I put my boots on the ground, it's my baby. In those areas, I don't trust anyone. Every piece of scaling advice says the opposite. You're going for 100 million, let's say. At what revenue does that stop being conviction and start being a bottleneck?
It can be a bottleneck, but there's a solution for it because what I've done is I support system integrators that they're trained by me and consultant groups that they become the end customer trusted advisors. So this is how I can scale in big numbers and succeed also. So and The other part of it is as technology evolves, today our models are better, are more accurate. The system became active and not passive. If you remember in the past, people used a lot of dashboards. So dashboards are not dead, like people say, but they became active. I ask a question, I get some kind of answer, a visualized answer, a text answer. That's helpful also to end customers. And this is how you can scale up by also keeping your place as the trusted advisor. So I can give an example from forecast. We have also partnership with something like 10 big system integrators and consulting groups around the world, almost in every country that we work.
And that should certainly provide a fair degree of impetus as well. Gartner published its first Magic Quadrant for decision intelligence this year. The category you've described for 8 years finally got formalized. Leaders are FICO, SAS, Era, IBM, Quantextra. Forecast isn't on it. What's the right response to watching your category become legitimate while analysts define it around companies that aren't you?
First of all, I think that I don't want to talk about anything bad because we were in the process of Gartner and wasn't chosen because they decided that we work too much in defense or other areas that they don't see as a big market. And also, I think they were looking more in a very technological concept of, for example, what companies do decision automation. And I told you, in the world that forecast makes decision, it's not decision automation. It's a whole different story. It's not just a tech solution. It's more of a decision framework. It's more of helping decision makers, high value decision makers. If you show me one company in that area that actually helps CEOs and helps generals, then I'll give you whatever you want. But companies that actually work in a factory or help their great technologies do decision automation, and that's a very different point of view. Because, for example, when I sit down with a four-star general, he doesn't need that automation of data. He doesn't need something that brings data fast. He needs something that actually helps them when he's doing critical decisions, when he's briefing the president, what kind of options do they have? What will be the impact of every decision they're making now today on their future, on other operations? So I think that's the difference. And this is why Forecast is a decision intelligence platform that doesn't fit to the exact story of all those, small tech tactical solutions. And yeah, we still don't have those huge numbers like others from the cardinal point of view and not from the technology point of view, in my opinion.
Does analyst recognition actually matter at all in defense procurement?
No, it doesn't matter. It matters in two areas that, first of all, I can tell you personally, I was very disappointed and talked to all those analysts and told them we have the best technology, but you looked at different points. It The only aspect it's a problem is sometimes imagine a big company like SAP would like to invest in technology so they can ask why forecast isn't in those numbers. Or like you're asking me, why aren't you in the magic quadrant? So, but regarding defense, no, because I think the value we're bringing, those proofs of value that we do with the end customer, they're implementing and seeing in 12 weeks value and answers to questions that they couldn't believe they would get in the past, although everyone's promising them, yeah, we will implement AI technologies. So we bring the value in the field with the decision maker. And once they see what we bring to them and those decision making framework and how we understand their challenges, that's then they don't need those magic quadrants. The only thing is more, let's call it about marketing, people knowing you,
Yeah.
seeing you.
Someone listening is running a $15 million company and feels exactly what you described, complexity outgrowing their ability to decide. No budget, no software, starting Monday. What's the one change that they should make?
First of all, the one change I would do is, do you know what's your goal? What's your lighthouse? Do you see it clearly? Now create that decision making framework and view just to achieve your goals. The critical decisions that will change your whole organization. It will bring a bunch of change, but that's what I would do.
Okay. And you've said that decision intelligence is the technology for the next 3 to 4 years. What's the technology of the 5 years after that?
No, it's actually, from my point of view, it's taking that decision intelligence technology also to our day-to-day things. Today, when we talk about decision intelligence, we talk about big organizations, big businesses, military, utility companies. What if tomorrow morning it will help me in other areas? I don't know. For people dating, right? Or for small decisions.
Okay.
But it's not there. And also there we need to be careful because I see the young generation today, they're asking ChatGPT for everything. It becomes their friend for everything. So that's a risk also.
Certainly. Um, what's a decision you're facing right now this month that you genuinely don't know the answer to?
A decision that I genuinely don't know the answer to. I'm expanding to new verticals and I'm mapping now a few verticals because I actually don't know if the best new vertical for us is transportation or healthcare. And this is why I'm doing a process internally because I still don't know the answer to that question.
Brilliant. This has been a terrific and insightful conversation, Nissim. If people are curious, want to find out more or connect with you, where would you recommend they head to?
First of all, we have a website, Forecast AI, and always they can approach me through LinkedIn. Feel free, Nissim Titan, and love to share information and help other people.
So we'll include the links to those in the show notes. Nissim, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.